The topic I'm going to go on right now is the face of a freedom fighter. What does a freedom fighter in America with the problems we have look like? And we got to start with a couple things. I'd like to talk a little bit about a reputation, your reputation versus your character. Your reputation is what other people believe you are. Politicians have reputations. Celebrities have reputations. Fathers have reputations to their children, to their co-workers. And then you have your character, who you really are. You may have the reputation of being honest, you may not be. Your character may not be honest. You may have the reputation of being a patriot, and you may not be a patriot. Your character doesn't show it. Your character is what you actually do, and not your reputation. Okay? So we want to get into, what is a freedom fighter? Well, number one is, how many people believe that what I presented showed a real injury to the American people? How many people believe it did not show? I did not prove my point.
You may not have proved it conclusively, but it's definitely worthy of a lot more research.
I've got a 5-hour presentation I can give you and provide it all for you. Okay?
Sticking around tonight?
I can. If people are interested, I'll bring it to you. What I'm trying to generate is interest that this is a topic worthy of jumping into, because I'm telling you, this is the remedy. You either embrace it and do it, or you accept the usurpation. You can be double-minded thinking America's foundation is Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, the Adamses, or you accept the reality that America's foundation is Reconstruction. Federal control over all states. Okay? And that's the conflict we have. I'm going to be harsh on people because we got to make a decision. You got to figure out, I don't care what your reputation is. You might have a reputation of being the one that's going to stand up and fight for a moral, right, and just cause. Or you're going to have the reputation or the character of being the one who does stand up for a moral, right, and just cause. You're going to be the person who says, hey, when I see the truth, I'm going to grab it and learn more about it and participate in it, or I'm going to have a reason not to. And I give you a choice of the red pill or the blue pill. Or the yellow pill. That's cowardice. I know what's going on, I'll stay in reality, and I'm just going to accept what's going on. I'm talking about unconstitutional acts of the Reconstruction Acts and the American Civil War. These are the 10 unconstitutional acts. Some of them you might think is a stretch. But how many acts, how many unconstitutional acts does there have to be to declare a piece of legislation null and void?
One.
Just one. So if only one of these is valid, we've got a just cause, and then we got to decide what's my character. I'm not looking for people with a reputation of standing up. I'm not looking for people who want to have an excuse not to stand up. I'm looking for the people who want to put the backbone back in America and stand up for a right and just and moral cause to get us back to our Constitution. It's not going to happen without action. It's not going to happen by people just going back and talking about it. You've got to do something. Our founding fathers, we talked earlier about, someone talked about the Jefferson's phrase of, the blood of tyrants and the blood of patriots. We live in such a soft society today. Such a soft society that people want the kinder, gentler revolution. I want to resist through compliance. I'm going to obey my oppressor, and I'll talk bad about it. That's my resistance. But you got a choice of grabbing the truth and jumping on the bandwagon, or you got to accept that America's foundation of treason of the federal government, of usurpation, of the overthrow of the Constitution, of the subjugation of all American people as the lawful foundation of which I want to participate in. or not. And this involves where your oath of allegiance is. If your oath, if you vote in that system, you've sworn an oath. In your voter registration application, you swear under penalty of perjury you're a United States subjugated citizen, not a state citizen. You're not a party to the Constitution. You don't have states' rights on your side. You've made that oath. And Congress is your sovereign. And you have a choice of accepting that or saying, you know what? I'm not going to participate in that. But let's just start going through some of this stuff here. These are the 10 constitutional violations of presidential actions, Abraham Lincoln, congressional actions during the war, and the Reconstruction Acts. For the Reconstruction Acts to have any validity whatsoever, if they could, and they can't, then the war had to be just. It had to be a moral and just war. There was a real threat to the sovereignty of Washington, D.C. When South Carolina seceded, was there a threat to Washington, D.C.? No, it's leave us alone. We're backing out. There was no threat. You get an international law, there's no authority for the federal government to do any of this. Abraham Lincoln acted in a dictatorial manner to overthrow the Constitution, subjugate all people, and centralize all power in Washington, D.C. Did he succeed?
Pretty much.
Do we like it?
No.
Are we going to do something about it, or are we going to talk bad about it? That's a choice we've got to make. Okay, right here. President Lincoln and Congress cited as their authority to wage war on the state of North Carolina and all the southern states as United States Statute of Large 1795, Section 36, whatever. This was specifically cited in Section 5 of the Act of July 13, 1861, where he's calling for troops. Here's my authority. And that act says, and be it further enacted, that whenever the President, in pursuance of the provisions of the second section of the Act entitled, an act to provide for calling forth the militia, to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrection, and repel invasion, and to repeal the act now in force for that purpose, approved February 28, 1795, I believe that was during the Whiskey Rebellion. It may and shall be lawful for the President to declare that the inhabitants of such state are in a state of insurrection against the United States. That's what Abraham Lincoln, Congress, actually used as their authority to do it. Well, the Act of July 13, 1861 is in violation of the United States Constitution, 10th Article of Amendment. Congressional authorization through statute granting the President powers to declare inhabitants to states to be an insurrection is not a power delegated to the United States by the Constitution. There's no constitutional authority for the President to declare states an insurrection. Congress has passed a law and says, we say you can do it. Well, is that lawful? Which has a higher force? Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution says, treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them. Does it say, is there anywhere in the Constitution that says, and the President is granted powers to declare states in insurrection to where he can invade them at his pleasure? It's not in there. And I go on and cite all that. For brevity, I'm not going to read all of that. Article 3, Section 3, United States Constitution, waging war upon state body politics of the American Union, annihilation of lawful state body politics, and the forced subjugation to laws and governments not of their consent, and put into place by the United States military in times of peace, clearly constitutes waging war upon said body politics. Is conquering and subjugating people, taking away their laws and forcing them under another set of laws, is that war? When Hitler went into France, isn't that what he wanted? I want to conquer you, I want to subjugate you, I want to make you subject to my laws. This is a nation built on the principle that all government of right comes from the consent of the governed. Did the Reconstruction create a government of right? No, it did not. Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution said, Article states that Congress is to guarantee a Republican form of government to the lawful state body politics of the American Union. Okay? Article 4, Section 4 has to guarantee a Republican form of government to the states. The state is what? A certain group of people. Is Congress given the authority to change that certain group of people? Does Congress have the authority to say, you know what? We're going to say that, Ohio has really irritated us. And them Canadians, they really want Ohio. We're going to change the body politic of Ohio to Canadians. and guarantee them a Republican form of government. Does Congress have the authority to do that? Can they change the body politic and put up one into place, say, we have the authority to guarantee a Republican form of government? No, they don't. Violates Article 4, Section 4. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 13, no bill of attainder shall be passed. A bill of attainder is, don't we guarantee a right to trial by jury in the Constitution? Right to trial by jury. What's a bill of attainder? That's where a government could pass legislation and declare a group of people guilty of a crime and then impose that punishment without due process of law. They don't get to represent themselves. Did the state of North Carolina have due process of law, or were the Reconstruction Act a bill of attainder? You're guilty of a crime. The punishment is loss of your state and your government, your subjugation, and then they actually put it into place. And did the people of North Carolina have a due process of law? Every individual. You can only, the Constitution says, in fact, if you read the Constitution, it talks about treason cannot work corruption of blood. What's that mean?
Family.
Your family. If you commit treason, they can't punish your children or your wife. You can only punish the one that committed the treason. Cannot work corruption of blood. The Reconstruction Act, if they said that, if they were right, and the Southern states did commit treason, does the Reconstruction Act annihilating the entire body politic? Does that subjugate the children, put them under the punishment supposedly of their fathers? Does that work corruption of blood? Yeah, it's a penalty on them and their children. No. If you commit treason, you have a trial by jury, you lose your right to vote. Everyone else stays where they're at. Okay?
What was the difference in an act of treason and being in rebellion?
I'm not going to get into that. Don't have time for all that. I've got things to go over, and we're not going to get. I'll take question and answer at the very end.
That's the term they used. I
Yeah.
believe Lincoln used was rebellion.
Well, they said you're rebelling to lawful authority. He wasn't recognizing secession as, and that rebellion was treason. Okay, because they felt they had oaths to the Constitution of the United States, and they were violating that. They didn't have a right to leave. Due process of law. Did we lose our state without due process of law? Yes. Those persons declared the Sixth Amendment. Did the people have a right to confront witnesses against them who lost the state, lost their body politic, lost their political status? No. No attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood. I just talked about that one. They did it to everybody. No new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state. The new state of a body politic composed of United States citizens was created. And it was imposed over this soil that they have the authority to exercise jurisdiction. But it says, and it was a new state. It says, no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of another. They did that by putting this new state. But they don't say they did that. They said it was just a readmittance of the original state. They shall guarantee to every state in the Union a Republican form of government. And there's another one which is kind of lengthy and I'm not going to go over it. If just one of those was valid, we've got a moral right and just cause to put back in place the lawful body, the lawful state, not the state that's in place. But you got a choice. Now here's what we've been doing. Here's what we do. We recognized this back in the late 1990s. We said, I'm going to recognize the original Constitution of North Carolina as being lawful and has never been changed by the consent of the people of North Carolina. And I'm born and raised here. I'm one of the posterity. We re-inhabited that body politic, and now we're challenging that in court. These are some of the court cases. This one and this one, and these are the transcripts of people going into court saying, you're not a lawful state. We're making our claim. Now, you have to have standing to do that. If I'm a United States citizen, is a United States citizen damaged by Reconstruction? No, they're the beneficiary of Reconstruction. How many people in here are United States citizens, have sworn an oath, who vote? If you vote, you've sworn an oath. You're a United States citizen. How many of you have sworn an oath that you're a United States citizen? Okay. Now, did you do it knowingly, willingly, with full disclosure? No. But you have sworn, that's who I am. But you want the rights. The reason you're in here is because you want the rights of a state citizenship. But you don't want to, or some people don't want to actually become a state citizen. I want to be a United States citizen. I want to vote over here. I want to participate over here. I want to get involved in political action committees. I want to try to really get, wait, it's a criminal entity. It's a put into place by usurpation. As a moral person, do we yoke ourselves equally or unequally to evil? You do not yoke yourself unequally. If you're a moral person, you yoke yourself with moral people. If you're an immoral person, you yoke yourself with immoral people. The government in place now, is it moral people or immoral people? Immoral. What direction are they teaching our children through the Department of Education? Immoral. How long is it going to be before you feel it's worth standing up for? And say, I'm done. Because it's up to you to stand up. Are you a freedom fighter? Well, I want to show you a little bit more of our legal argument. Their Constitution, now this is in North Carolina, and I want everyone to know here, this argument, even though I talk about North Carolina, is for every state in the Union. Because you have been conquered. Every state, through the 14th Amendment, was depopulated of state citizens and repopulated with national citizens. Every one of them. Then you have the new states that came into the Union afterwards. I think there were 37 or so states in the American Union right after the Civil War. What about the new states? Well, they're dictated by the Northwest Ordinance. Northwest Ordinance was drafted and passed during the under the Articles. And then when we went under the Constitution, it was one of the first things adopted. What did the Northwest Ordinance do? It said, hey, we got all this territory out here that's unorganized. There's not states there. And so the Northwest Ordinance is what's the process we're going to use to organize these territories? And it says that each state is to come into the Union on equal footing with the original 13. That's a free state, not a subjugated satellite of Washington, D.C. They have a right to establish lawful government. All the other states have a right to reestablish lawful government. Do United States citizens have a right to reestablish lawful government? You got an oath over there. That's your government. The one that's in place now is your government. You have no right to rebel against it. You actually have no right to talk bad about it. You definitely have no right to get a militia and say, we're going to raise arms against it. That's treason. You do have a right to be in a lawful state body politic and participate in it, and then tell them, you have no right to be here. We've got standing. We're reclaiming the soil of North Carolina. Most people keep thinking, well, we just got to go back to our legislatures and repeal. A United States citizen government cannot repeal its legislature. That doesn't help. The people have to reclaim. You, each and every one of you, have to reclaim. I'm making a claim. What did our founding fathers do? They got new governments, right? The Constitution of North Carolina was December 18th, 1776. North Carolina did their Declaration of Independence May 20th, 1775. We said, we're independent. This is before the Declaration of Independence. A year before. North Carolina was the first state to do a Declaration of Independence. Came out of Mecklenburg County. Some good things do come out of Charlotte. Okay? So, they said, we're independent. We're not under the crown. We don't recognize you as having lawful authority over us. Our problem here is we look at that entity, this usurping state, and we say, and we tell them, go this way, which flag do you fly here? We look at the usurping state and say, won't you do the right thing? Which flag do you fly? Which one do you recognize as lawful, moral, and just, or a usurper? Which one? Because we got to start having the moral fiber to stand up. Because what have Americans been taught to do? We draw a line in the sand. It could be parent school in the 60s. It could be abortion in the 70s. It could be gay rights in the 90s. Gay marriage in the 20s. We draw a line. This is our red line. We're going to stand here. And what happens? What have we grown accustomed to? Here's my line. Won't go any further.
I mean it this time.
I mean it this time. Okay, my line is right here. Where's your line? How many of you know the story of Valley Forge? How many people have heard about those guys having no shoes in the wintertime? The bloody footprints. What were those people willing to stand up and do to get freedom for their children, which is us? They were willing to stand up. They had bloody footprints in the snow. Where are your bloody footprints in the snow? We don't want it. We got to start standing up. We got to take this stuff seriously. And you got to come to a conclusion. Either I'm right, either this is true, it actually happened, this is the foundation, or it's wrong. And you need to come up to me and find out. And if you want to debate this, if you want to come up with your philosophy of what happened, I will take you on. But you've got to come up to the foundation. And I want to go right here. How many people have seen this 15%, 70%, 15%, sometimes it's a 20, 60, 20? The people who do nothing. 15% is the active patriots. 70% do nothing. 15% are the active loyalists. It can be done with Reconstruction. It can be done today. The patriots that we have today. And then you got the people who do nothing. And they're right here. They're sympathetic to the patriots. They're not one. They haven't jumped over to the side. But they vilify the loyalists. Oh, they're just bad. They're terrible, awful people. I'm on this end of doing nothing. I'll talk about it. Talk's cheap. But I'm going to do nothing. I support you, but I'm going to do nothing. I'm not going to support you. And then you got the people over here who are sympathetic to the loyalists, our government, and they vilify the patriots, the Tea Party, and all this other stuff. This is the people who do nothing. Where do you fall? Do you just talk bad about them? Or do you actually jump on the side and be an active patriot? Yeah, I know we got the 3%ers here. You know, we're the ones that will stand up. Are you on this side, or are you really right here? And this is just something you've got to answer for yourself. Where are you? If you know the truth and you do nothing, then you're giving acquiescence and you're actively supporting the usurpers. If you're all the way up to that point, you're supporting the usurpers. You say, I recognize them. I'm not willing to stand up against them. You got to hop on this active patriot side. You know, who are you? Revelations 3:15, 17 says, I know your works. Now this is Jesus talking to the church. I don't want to sit there and say this is totally to you. He says, I know your works, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were cold or hot. Since you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. Even Jesus says, for the cause of Christ, I'd rather you be against me than in this middle of doing nothing but giving me lip service over here. Be against me. That's what I'm telling you. I want you to be against me. I want to know who you are, or you be for us. That lukewarm in the middle, I'm doing the best I can. Because that's what creates the problem. The people who know what to do and rationalize in their own mind doing nothing. And just some more. Ephesians 5:11. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. Are you going to expose the works of darkness, or are you going to embrace them and say, I'm going to participate in them? I'm going to vote over there. I'm going to get my representative in darkness. I want to be a representative in darkness. I mean, or are you going to expose them and operate on the side of truth? Therefore, to him who knows to do good and does not do it, to him it is sin. And of course, we know these secular statements.
Hey, John, I'm sorry. I know you did it with the first one. With the other ones, can you say the...
Therefore, to him who knows to do good and does not do it, to him is sin, is James 4:17. The evil work, or the lukewarm, hot and cold, is Revelation 3:15 to 17, and the other one was Ephesians 5:11.
Okay, thank you.
And of course we know this. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. I'm not going to hop on this side. I'm not going to hop on that side. I'm going to be in the middle and justify to all my neighbors. I'm going to have the reputation of being over here, but I don't have the character of being over here. And then, I'm not a big Winston Churchill fan, but men occasionally stumble over the truth, but most of them pick themselves up and hurry off as if nothing ever happened. Who are you? What are you willing to do? The face of a freedom fighter? Right there. Her. This is her court transcripts going in, fighting Reconstruction, fighting the overthrow of government. She went there 9 months pregnant, was thrown in jail pregnant. We got women fighting for us. When are you going to stand up and fight? Or do you need this? A little boot polish and a brush, so you can worship and hug the boots of your oppressor. You need to make a decision. Now, I'll stay here tonight and talk to anybody as long as they want. I know I can only give you a summary sketch. I can guarantee you I can answer your questions. All of these are court cases that have gone up. Lady back there, right shirt. She's gone into court. She's a freedom fighter, fighting Reconstruction. I've been in there. Am I full of camo? I got a bunch of weapons. I tell everybody how I'm going to sit there and do all sorts of things? No. We want those people, but we want them here. I don't want people there. You're lukewarm. You do no good because you acquiesce, you accept usurpation as your foundation of government. I know I may not be invited back.
You said that 3 years.
You won't be that lucky.
Well, I did.
You didn't go into details with the strip search.
Well, yeah, she was strip searched. That's the thing is, Mandy, this woman, 9 months pregnant. And not because she got pulled over, not from that. It's no, when she appealed in court, I believe it was, made the appeal. She challenged jurisdiction. They said, we're not going to prove it. They found her guilty, and then she appealed the ruling to go to a higher court, and they said, okay, we're going to throw you in jail.
And she went back after that and fought again.
And she went back after that and fought again. These are our freedom fighters. Are we the people who are going to say, we're going to let women do our fighting? Because if you are, then if you want to know what the problem is, quit looking at Fox News, CNN, quit listening to the radio. It's not the Democrats. It's not the judiciary. It's not the Clintons. It's not the Obamas. It's not the Republicans. The problem is what you see every morning in the mirror. Until such time as you choose to be a doer rather than a talker, then you're the one saying, I'm going to let evil triumph. I am willing to do nothing. For the people who want to do something, I highly recommend getting educated. Know this argument. This is a movement on education, not a movement of emotion. I'm here to educate, to provide a lot more information. We need to get up and go back there. That right there is a muster booth. We need a muster. And get people to muster in, bind themselves together through an oath to take back lawful government and put it back on the soil of the United States of America again. And thank you very much.